Hello. I'm Susan. I understand that you are taking a course on interviewing and counseling clients. Today, I'd like to help you learn a little more about the basics of interviewing. We will watch Jason as he conducts the initial interview with a new client. Just like you, Jason is brand new at this, so he will make some mistakes. But by watching some brief interview segments and discussing them as a class, we should be able to learn together from Jason's example. In this first example, we'll assume Jason has finished all small talk with the client and is ready to jump into the interview. At this point in the interview, the lawyer should ask an initial question aimed at encouraging the client to provide a broad, open narrative about the client's problem. Listen to Jason's initial question and discuss as a class whether he was effective in his request.
Miss Farmer, I understand that you were trying to acquire some property. Tell me a little about that process and where you were with that.
Okay, well actually, it's in the past now. We have acquired the property, the Van Ousdale Mansion. Let's look at another common beginner's mistake. One thing lawyers love to do is give legal advice. But it is very important that the lawyer not give legal advice until he has a clear picture of the client's problem. Listen to the following example and discuss whether or not the legal advice given is premature.
Thanks for coming and meeting with me today.
Thanks for fitting me in so quickly. We are kind of under a time crunch trying to get our ballet operating.
That sounds exciting. So did you just purchase the building?
Yes, we haven't actually closed on it yet. We will do that on Monday.
Good. So, there are a number of issues that I'd just like to go through with you about zoning and getting approvals to have a ballet in this house. First, let's discuss the Landmark Committee, which is a committee that basically has oversight and jurisdiction over all historic landmarks and the avenues.
We'll focus this time on the question that follows the client's brief overview of her problem. After you have listened to and thought about Jason's response to the client's narrative, discuss as a class whether or not his follow-up question was effective.
Well, it looks like you are here because your company recently purchased a new building in the avenues in Salt Lake. Is that correct?
Yes. It's the Van Ousdale Mansion in downtown Salt Lake. We totally got lucky finding this mansion and we are thrilled about it, but we are now also facing some concerns about zoning problems, and that's why I came to see you.
Okay, what do you know about the zoning issues so far?
One very important part of client interviewing and counseling is the element of framing. You will learn a lot about framing this semester, but for now, we'll just focus on transition frames. Transition frames signal to the client that you are finishing up one topic and moving on to another. Without framing, transitions from one topic to the next will sound abrupt. Listen to Jason's transition from one topic to another and determine whether or not he used a transition frame. Then discuss potential framing options with the class.
What types of renovations are you planning for the building?
We are going to restore everything to look like an 1890s mansion. But we have to do a lot of renovations to make the ballet school and the costume shop and the business offices all fit in the mansion.
And they'll all be using the same entrance?
Yes. It will cost us about $500,000 to do because of the nature of the building.
Sure. What about the parking area? It seems like there are quite a few spots and spaces there. Do you anticipate that with the recitals in the school and some of the other things you do that a time may come when the parking area might overflow and there would be parking on the street?
Most attorneys are excellent issue spotters. Once they hear a legal issue, they identify it as something that needs to be addressed. Watch Jason as he identifies an important legal issue in the client's answer to a question. Notice his response to the client. Was it effective? Why or why not?
Are you planning on adding a parking structure to accommodate the business you are going to be getting? Do you have blueprints for some of the changes you are going to be making?
We do have blueprints. We have an architect. I don't have them here with me. But yes, it would be all internal, like I said. As far as parking, our plan is to have people park on the street. I think the only time that would be a problem would be during the recitals.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you right now that parking on the street is going to be an issue. You are not allowed to have more than 2 or 3 cars during the year. So, they do allow you to add a parking structure within a block of the location. That might be something you can look into if you don't want to put parking on site, but in order to get it approved by the zoning board you're going to have a plan for parking during the recitals.
Well, if you look at the street in that picture though, you can see that the street really is a great place to park. It's wide. There would be plenty of room.
Yeah, I can tell you for sure though that the zoning commission is not going to approve that if your plan is for parking on the street because it's a residential location. Even if you got the conditional use permit, they would mandate that you would have some other plan for parking.
Have you ever met someone who is always jumping from topic to topic and never seeming to finish up any of the topics they start? For example, I am just standing here talking to you about your interviewing and counseling class at BYU. I miss BYU. It was a wonderful school. I'll never forget going to law school there and staying up all night studying and editing journal articles. Ugh. I hate editing. I was an English major, so people always ask me to edit their papers and I just have to say no. I'm simply too busy for that kind of thing. It's like life just gets busier and busier the older I get. I'm getting so old. I just had a birthday recently and I can't believe how old I am. Do you see what I mean? It's pretty easy to associate one topic with another and move between them without missing a beat. Watch Jason fall victim to this in this next segment. It will be subtle, so watch close and then discuss it with your classmates. So we'd like to just put something on the post that says "Welcome to the Van Austdale Mansion, home of the Utah Ballet Company," so that's what we are looking at. There will really be no other external changes. That's the only thing we'd like to do.
Okay, now, that might not be a problem with the Landmark Committee, but when you go to apply for your conditional use permit with the Planning and Zoning Commission, one of the stipulations, because you are in a residential area, and also a historic area, is that they don't like the use of signs, not on windows or on posts. They kind of want to maintain the residential atmosphere. And so, a sign is probably going to be a problem.
Well, it has been my pleasure to meet with you today. I hope you have learned as much as I have from watching Jason as he practices his interviewing skills. For this final segment, we will focus on asking relevant questions. Assume Mrs. Farmer has already told Jason that the Utah Ballet Company closed on the mansion last Saturday and therefore is the current owner. Notice the follow-up questions Jason asks. Are they relevant? Why or why not? We'd just like to know if moving the sign out closer to the road where people can see it would require a hearing before the Landmark Committee. So we'd like you to check on that for us.
Okay, and does Mrs. Van Austdale know about this idea of moving the sign?
She does.
Does she approve of it? She doesn't have any problems with that at all?
No.